Hey everybody, Grace here. Welcome to another video. This weekend I got top 4 finish at PWCQ55 playing a kind of unique smokescreen strategy that I cooked up. It was a great time, fun tournament. I was very happy to make a nice run. I would of course love to have gotten over the finish line. I've had a lot of, that's kind of been my barrier where I've gotten stopped a lot, is kind of the 3rd, 4th place spot in these tournaments, and eventually we'll get there. It definitely, like the first time it was like, okay, cool, we topped, awesome. But now it's, I'm just hungry to, get a win and get that invite. So we'll get there. It takes time. The game kind of giveth and taketh. In, my top 8 match, I just completely outdrew my opponent. It wasn't really close. And then the kind of reverse happened in the top 4 match where I lost. So it's just how it goes. Yugioh giveth and taketh, like I said. So I played like a kind of, like I said, a smokescreen strategy, basically warriors going into earth aggro with decree. I decided to play this because it was Swiss, and it'd be a bit harder for people to kind of see what you're on, based off of like the replays were of course available. So, but most of the time people would just look at kind of your game 1 to see what you were playing, and then they just kind of skip away or whatever. See, okay, it's warriors, let's move on. Honestly, I woke up like 10 minutes before this started. I really didn't know if I was going to be able to play, but my day kind of opened up and I just didn't really know even what kind of deck to bring. I thought maybe fairies. I thought maybe just, standard warrior, but I decided because it's Swiss to bring this. And really, like the ratios, everything in this, it's kind of sloppy to be perfectly honest. I think there's plenty of ways these ratios and stuff could be adjusted. This is just a deck that I had built a couple weeks ago. I actually played it in the final round of the War League where I beat Moxies with it. And I've had some success in Slifers and stuff playing it, but just really I've probably played like 4 or 5 matches with the deck. The concept's there, but it's really not like honed in, I would say, at all. And honestly, my play this whole weekend, it was a little sloppy. Woke up late, was a little tired, but you know what? I was drawing well and just beating people down with Goblin Attack Force. So sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you don't even need to play well. But yeah, like I said, it was a good tournament. It was a lot of fun. So kind of the concept behind this deck, like I said, is they see standard warriors game 1, and most people are kind of siding the same way against the warrior deck. So if you look at the last major championship, GFC 21, and there was a lot of Chaos Turbo in the top cut, and you see the Chaos Turbo strategy against aggro decks, against warriors specifically. You see Zambira, you see Sakuretsu Armor. Purple Drunk, a little bit different. He ran the kind of goat meta stuff, which this deck definitely does not, the earth conversion thing definitely does not want to play against this. Especially around the World Championship this year when people were playing like the goats and the creature swaps and stuff. This whole concept is designed, it's not for that. If a lot of people are on like goats and meta in their side and turbo, I would never bring this to a tournament, but at the moment nobody really is. This is kind of the exception. So we go here, Ghost Rider, triple Saku, triple Zambira, maybe some Dust Tornadoes come in against the aggro deck. Zambira, Sakuretsu Armor, Zambira, Saku, potentially Solemns, Saku, Zambira. I mean, you get the point. Like, it seems to be the pretty common siding strategy against aggro. And so kind of my goal to counter it is bringing in these big 2300 beaters, Goblin Attack Force, in order to, plus back over our opponent's Zambiras, and also just to, do some damage as quickly as possible to throw our opponent off guard a little bit. And then also the triple Royal Decree, because our opponents are usually siding into more traps. They're increasing their trap count post board against the warrior deck somewhat. And I feel like these cards really can catch our opponents off guard games 2 and 3. And typically I would kind of stick with the Smokescreen games 2 and 3. And of course there's the option to go back, but most of the time I would just kind of stick with this. Now, like I said, the ratios are not perfect. Like, I don't know if I'd play Lily. Maybe like a second DD Assailant would be better. Probably would. The ratios on this are definitely not perfect at all, but the idea is there, right? So I'll show you really quickly kind of how I sided, because that might be a little confusing seeing like how are you siding into triple decree when you run so many traps yourself and you're not siding in a ton of like spells. So against kind of like just a standard chaos turbo, kind of irregardless of if I'm going first or second, basically I'd side out almost everything on this bottom row. And then I would usually side in pretty much all of this, maybe minus, not the King Tigers. These would mainly come in against like control or burn or stuff like that, but usually something along these lines. Take a lot of these traps out, and then I'd probably take out some of the monsters. I would go usually like Donzalug, Blade Knight, Zambira. The Zambira in the mains kind of to help shore up the, just the aggro mirror game one, and then maybe one of the Kaikus. So something along these lines, because typically Earth aggro plays a bit of a higher monster count than Warrior does anyway, so it's not a big deal that you're increasing your monster count. And still, I keep the double Rhoda, so I have access to the Warrior toolbox still, but the kind of shift of the shift of focus of the deck changes. So now I have the Goblin attack forces and things like that to deal with my opponents. Zambira, same with the Cypher Soldier, stuff like that. Smashing Grounds in the main help. But I also have the Decree to kind of counter their increased trap count, their Solemns, their Sakus. And then, they'll never expect it because, they see that we're on Solemns and all this stuff in game one. Against aggro, I'm not exactly sure the configuration. Maybe something, I think something along these lines. The knocks go out, Mystic Swords with level 2. And then I'd bring in all of this stuff. I think I'd probably like to get both of the Kaikus out. So something along those lines against aggro. Like I said, this is not perfect. Just kind of the general idea. You can at least see what I was doing. And I know like I'm still playing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 traps with triple Royal Decree. Seems a bit excessive, but most of the time I would, of course, if I see, Decree and these other traps in my opening hand, I definitely try to get some value out of them before I set the Royal Decree. And it helps a lot because, very early on, that Decree is not going to stick on the board. They'll have a Dust Tornado of their own, or MST, or a Breaker, some way to deal with it. But usually mid-game, if I can get this Royal Decree on board, it'll usually stick for the majority of the time. And if I, top deck into any more traps, it is what it is. But I know 3 seems excessive, but it really wasn't too big of an issue during the tournament. But who knows? It could be a problem for sure. I really liked keeping both the Dusts and the Decrees in post board just to really help. Dust still does what it does when you're playing aggro and simplifying the game state, allowing your attacks to swing through. But I think so. I like having both a lot, honestly, because if I see both at the same time, I'll get some value of the Dust Tornado, and then I'll set the Decree. Something along those lines. So that's the general idea of it. Definitely, I don't want to run into like control with this deck. I don't really want to play against any jank. A Smokescreen strategy like this, it's really, kind of hyper focused on countering, the main Chaos Turbo strategy. It's also like plays pretty well into the Warrior Mirror, which is nice because Decree, hits them a lot, and then all of these Earth monsters are very good against the kind of standard Blade Knight stuff. So. I like it against the Warrior Mirror. I like it against Turbo because they're all pretty much siding the same. But I definitely didn't want to play against Control, and I definitely didn't want to play against like the Earth Aggro Mirror or any other kind of janky decks. And luckily, I played mostly Turbo throughout the tournament. So we'll look at one replay real quick. Like I said, most of the games were honestly kind of sloppy. I got away with a lot. Drew fairly well, but that's just how it goes sometimes. I feel like it's kind of funny. My best tournament runs are ones where I just show up last second with no expectations and just load up a random deck, and those seem to be some of the best days, I guess. So I think it was round 5 or 6 I played against Anthony Alvarado. And I know you're thinking, hey, Grace, like, are you just playing the match against probably the best player in GOAT format, just make yourself look good? And the answer is of course, because this guy is a monster. He ended up, of course, winning this event. That is back-to-back Patreons. His trophy page on Format Library is absolutely ridiculous. So does that make me the de facto GOAT? I don't know. Could be, potentially. So anyway, let's get into it. He's on Chaos Turbo, which is what I'm hoping to be playing against for the majority of the time. So he sets 1, T sets. Go ahead and just lead with the Pot of Greed. And yeah, tons of ways to just really simplify things on our terms here. So yeah, just summon Sasuke to dodge Torrential, knock. This is all pretty straightforward. Having the Exiled is really nice for follow-up to deal with any additional flips. We get him off of 3 darks. We don't have to deal with spies anymore for the rest of this game, so this feels very good. And then I have the Solemn to protect, things, so I can pretty much shut my whole hand, and feeling very good. He goes Jar of Greed, sets another monster, just use Exile. This is just the classic Game 1 Warrior beatdown, which I will take it any day of the week against a good opponent. I don't want to be drug out into the depths against Alvarado in a grindy match. It's just not going to work out. Yeah, I draw into Rhoda, which now, I kind of wish I wouldn't have set it to everything. There's definitely an argument to keep the heavy, but there's those times where you can simplify the game state very quickly and you're left with just the heavy set, and that can really catch your opponent off guard. So that was kind of my thinking, but at the same time, probably could have kept this in hand because now I have this Rhoda. I didn't really think about this at all because I definitely would like to go Mystic Swordsman level 2 or, kind of continue the aggression with something else. And so now we're kind of getting walled out by this Sinister. He goes Tribe. I definitely don't want to use Solemn, I don't think, because I don't know, there's a way he can just heavy my board here and I just lose. But I also don't feel like I'm getting, I don't know, I could also just let it go through, but then he just basically goes +1. Now I could definitely potentially plus back over with a Blade Knight or something of my own next turn, but then that requires the attack to go through to get my plus off. So I think I decide to chain Book of Moon and then plan on ringing the Tribe. So yeah, I think that's an egg 1. I don't know. And I make his knock live by doing that. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that was the correct play. I think maybe just let it go through and then just try to attack back over with Blade Knight. So now I know that the fact he set knock, I don't know if that implies that his other back row is real, but it definitely means he was trying to, kind of bluff something to hinder my aggression. So I decided to go ahead and go Rhoda here. Makes the most sense. I have double Solemn. I mean, this is kind of basically done regardless, especially now that I got him low with the ring. I could go Dawn's Luke. I could go Blade Knight. I decided to go Blade Knight, especially because the Gravekeeper spies are gone. Yes, I could get a rip with Dawn's Luke, but at the same time, if he draws into another Dekoichi or something like that, I want to make sure to, or a Night Assailant, I want to decrease the chances of him being able to resolve that effect, of course. He goes BLS, which definitely seems like a kind of desperation, just trying to make something happen. I saw him drawn to a BLS of my own, which is most definitely not live. There's no need to set this first. There's no monsters that he could have that that extra 400 attack would make a difference with, but I'm just giving him more information. So regardless, doesn't matter too much. I need to find another monster. He goes Pot of Greed. Let's just rip the Solemn. And I do find another monster. I just have the feeling based off of how, kind of he was forced to play that he probably didn't have a ton of great cards there. Another knock. So he drew both knocks early, which is a bit unfortunate. And he had another Faith in hand. So what's he going to do? That's kind of, unfortunate. We take those though. So now as I head into the Decree stuff, he goes Duo, snatches a Decree, and I ditch the DD Assailant. So the jig is up. Is it jig or is it gig? I don't know the phrase perfectly, but so I actually have played against Alvarado in a Slifer with this strategy, so he might kind of have an idea of what I'm trying to do. I decided to set both of these books, namely because namely why? I think basically, and this is kind of, silly, but if he has a way to deal with one, I want to have another one as a backup. I'm thinking because he set one, he's not going to heavy and just trade even into all this stuff, though that would then allow him to. So this definitely plays into heavy for sure. I think I'm just trying to make sure if he has like an in-phase MST, or maybe he has a solemn or a way to kind of deal with the first book that, I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. I should probably just set one of these here, because then he hits me with a pro heavy where I just go neg for no reason. I decide to book it just because I know he has Tsukiyomi, just to try to maybe avoid that for a turn. But he has the signature card, of course, Alvarado, one of the main people responsible for popularizing the dark monster that just absolutely obliterates warriors. So I had to just pass. Nothing really to do here. Yeah, I could try, but like, what am I accomplishing? Because he's just going to Tsukiyomi me back over the next turn anyway. Drawn to Mirror Force, which could be very nice. So I'm just going to set it and pass. He has the MST end phase. So, my thinking of setting double book is not crazy, but like the chances of him in phase MSTing are just as high as him having heavy. So that doesn't make a ton of sense. He goes Spy, which is nice. So Tribe's going to definitely do some work at some point here, but I decided to go ahead and do this just before he starts going Sook, Spy, starts looping everything and puts up a big wall. So I think I decide to ditch the Kaiku because I can always pre-met it back anyway to deal with his Zombira, and then I try to attack into the Spy, which it gets Sakura to armored. And so now I'm not, super upset, because even if he, brings out a bunch of Spies, I can always Tribe next turn. Drawing a Pot of Greed. I'll take it. He thinks for a bit. I wonder, did he have a Solemn back there? He did have a Solemn. Okay. Yeah, spoiler. Drawing a Graceful. Go ahead and just rip it. Like, I just need to find the best out to this situation to get myself back into it. I'm too low to kind of be screwing around doing anything else, I think. Not the best draws. Would have really liked to find some, something defensive. But really, like we said, at this point, we're not playing a ton of defensive options. Gigantes would be very nice here, but I decided to ditch the Knock because it's not doing anything, and the Mystic Swordsman level 2 because it's not doing anything. I have Exile to potentially deal with face downs, but Exiled is much more versatile in dealing with a variety of different things. I decided to go Breaker because hoping like maybe this is a Battle Trap, because then I can, pop the Battle Trap and then get an attack through with the Breaker. And it was the Solemn, and I'm able to clear his board, which is nice. Just like that. And he has a Tsukiyomi in hand, so won't be able to deal with the Assailant. Unfortunately, he has a Breaker of his own. So he attacks, pops that. So then he clears back our board. Blade Knight. This is all kind of, self-explanatory at this point. Just trying to hang on for dear life. We're going to get sooked, but it is what it is. GD Warrior Lady, great draw. I'm just going to continue to get aggressive. Like, I just need to, get after it before the Chaos Turbo player has a chance to even the score. Draw into Exile, draw into Knock. Decided to set the Exiled, knowing that we've already gone through 2 Zombiras, so he's probably not going to have a ton of like beaters left that he's just going to be randomly attacking into my face downs with. He might suspect it to be like a Don Zalug or something along those lines. And I know that he has Tsukiyomi, so I'm trying to get him to like maybe set something back so that I can knock or something. I don't know. I'm really just trying to hang on for dear life because I'm at 500 here. So like there's a world where I could definitely just attack with this, but then he's just going to Tsukiyomi it. So that's why I decided to set it. Thunder Dragon, drop Sorcerer, wisely, does not fear this at all, and is just going to go ahead and swing in. I go Gaff. I've already used Exiled. I've already used DD Warrior Lady, so this is kind of my only other answer. We crash, set the Knock, which he's going to know this is not real because, I would have used the Rhoda last turn, so he summons Sork, and that will do it. These were kind of how a lot of my matches went. Just not really crazy. Like I just kind of had the goods game 1, and then usually they'd, kind of swing it back in their favor game 2 or something. And then, I'd able to even the tide in game 3. So DD Assailant, set the Decree. Really just got to hope for no like spell trap removal, because if not, this Decree can go pretty nicely here. Goes Thunder Dragon. Just praying for no card destruction or graceful or anything. Doesn't in fact happen to be the case. Yes, so I decided not to flip the Decree in the end phase. I don't know, maybe I should. I think I'm just trying to wait to maybe bait out like a Regeki break or something, and then I can chain it, but I don't know. I sometimes think you should just rip this in the end phase, but if he has an MST in hand, he'll chain it, and also he's expecting it, so I don't know. I decided to go ahead and just save it for this push right here. So it works out. He goes ring, I Decree, and I'll be able to just start getting after it. And if he doesn't have an answer to this, then those Sakus, they're not going to do a whole lot. He decides to go BLS, ends up crashing into the DD Assailant. This is interesting, like, you know, I guess they call it like the Dunning-Kruger curve or whatever, where, you know, you've seen those memes where you'll see somebody at a very beginner level, you know, something, the kind of meme that I'm thinking here is, you know, summon BLS and just attack both to do as much damage as possible. Like that might be how a beginner thinks. And then, you know, more intermediate, you think, oh, you never should do that, right? You should always just be getting the banish out there, put that monster on board, and use BLS's effect to just continuously plus every turn. But then, once you get to a much higher level, sometimes it is worth going for that damage and trading your BLS just to go 2 for 1 and put a lot of damage on board, which is what he does. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, this is all pretty straightforward here. Drawing very nicely, a nice mix of, you know, spell trap removal, or a nice mix of course, the Decree to, you know, protect a lot of my plays, the knocks, everything. Hit the spies, fantastic, love to see it. Go ahead and get in with the DD Warrior Lady just to put that body on board. That's going to be sticky. I draw into Rhoda, so now I go Prima on the Mystic Swordsman level 2, and just doing bukus of damage. Got him down to 1,000 life points. Really didn't even consider Tribe in the slightest, but Tribe completely deals with that board. So we're right back at square one, but luckily we've got like really nice hand to deal with pretty much anything. And then I happen to draw into Injection Fairy Lily, which is just gonna seal the deal. So definitely a bit fortunate some of my draws there. I really didn't, you know, go Trinity or anything, but just had the knocks and stuff at the right time. And the Decree, as you can see, was blocking out both the Solemn and Saku, and this is the whole idea behind this concept, you know, because I know these are coming in against Warrior, so that's the idea behind it, and it worked out. Of course, congratulations to Anthony Alvarado for another title. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous at this point, but I thought that, you know, replay kind of showed what I was trying to do, at least with the deck somewhat. So I think that is all I have got. Yeah, thanks for everybody watching, everybody that was rooting me on. Means a lot. And that is all I got. I will talk to you all later. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you. Bye.